Stop with the questions. Celebrate.
And then they say, is Donald Trump an intellectual? Trust me, I'm like a smart person. Yosemite's one of the wettest we've ever seen from the standpoint of water.
Mike Lindell's a conspiracy.
Well, you haven't. Person, woman, man, camera, TV. They said nobody gets it in order. It's actually not that easy, but for me it was easy.
Amazing.
He can't sit down. He's got a burning in his butthole. He's got a fire. He's got a flame coming out of his butthole.
Big, massive dumps.
Oh, I have a term for that. I call it corporate communism.
Somebody sent me a thing this morning where they're talking about putting the vaccine into salad dressing.
You see, this is a simple meme that you would find on the internet, but this meme is very real.
You ain't seen nothing yet until you see the flaming butthole.
Putting us on our knees to China.
Now witness the firepower of this fully armed and operational battle station.
Sexual anarchy.
Good afternoon. You know what time it is. It's Monday. Time to go around the nation. Hey, everybody. All right. Hopefully you all had a great weekend. Valentine's Day. You know, it is the day that is filled with
Sexual anarchy.
lots and lots of it. Should be fun. We got a great story on that. Charlie Kirk, not happy with the Super Bowl. In fact, you not only have Charlie Kirk that's not happy, you have a lot of conservatives very, very unhappy with what's going on. Very, very interesting stuff.
Oh, no!
I don't know. Maybe they're upset about their meat. Apparently it's not tight enough.
I like my meat tight. Tighten up my meat.
I don't know. I don't know what's going on there. But anyway, there's the show is not full of love today.
I have not loved this conversation.
And I'm just playing around with my soundboard and being ridiculous. Okay, anyway, we got a good show today. So I'm just playing around with my with buttons. Very many buttons, much wow. But we are going to have some serious stories as well, including California prisons caught poisoning their own inmates. Yes, so that's not good. We also have of course a racist doctor that is emailing black anchors about their makeup. And then there's a good twist in that story, which is so good. So good. And then we're also going to talk about Laura Trump saying ridiculous things on Fox News. So again, lots of fun stuff we're going to talk about today. Please like and share the stream. Big, massive button. The biggest buttons. I have the biggest button. Nobody's button compares to my buttons. And so, yeah. Big, massive buttons. Let's see. I was going to read here a comment here actually about, what is it? Let's see. Hold on. Have I thought of having an interview with Andrea Cyberdemon? She's based AF. Yeah, I'm open to it. Yeah, of course. Always open to that. We've had some good interactions on the Twitter. So, you know, I'm always up to doing segments and stuff with other people. All right. That said, hey, Scotty Dragon, welcome to the chat. By the way, over here on Twitch. Thank you so much Not a racist doctor. Why can't we have a non-racist doctor for once? Well, because they don't make the news. All right, anyway. Let's do it. Let's go to the bowl of superness. Of anger. Is that a thing? The Super Bowl of mad? Because we're going to go there. All right. Let me see if I can get that all set up. Right-wingers were furious at the NFL for allowing rapper Eminem to take a knee in support of former NFL quarterback Colin Kaepernick during the Super Bowl halftime show. Now, of course, look, I'm just going to be honest. I don't watch the Super Bowl. I don't watch the Super Bowl. I don't think it's very super. But then again, they do have the halftime show and the commercials, which apparently a lot of people like. That said, I can't show you the video of what happened because nothing is more copyright protected than the Super Bowl, especially the halftime show. But here's a still. That's Eminem doing a little knee, which is great. Except that there were people that were not so happy about this. In fact, you have a lot of conservatives that have written in on social media. I'm gonna read some of them. So now, for one, Charlie Kirk. He's going to start out by saying, the NFL is now the league of sexual anarchy. This halftime show should not be allowed on television. Now, that's not about Eminem specifically, but that is about some of the other parts of the halftime show. Again, just to show you how the rage of the halftime show is kind of dispersed, I should say, about the different elements of the halftime show. But nonetheless, you have some here about Eminem. One person wrote, nobody was moved or inspired by you taking a knee at the Super Bowl halftime show. Another person says, imagine caring about the Super Bowl. Time to walk away from the demented circuses of this fallen world. Wow, that's very, very doomer. Damn. Another person says, Eminem is a buffoon. If somebody asked him why he was kneeling, he would have a hard time explaining it. Okay, so that's really interesting. So now, something that we've talked about before is the Freedom Truckers, right? So now, if you asked them to explain why it was okay for the Freedom Truckers to harass people or for them to harass people wearing masks and block roads, and you also ask them, why is that okay when it came to BLM, Black Lives Matter, why that was not okay for them to occasionally block traffic? Would they have a good answer about that? No, of course not. Jeffrey Loomis adds, what a dope. Another person said, Eminem, again you folded. What about again? What about again? What do they mean? Another person says, why does it always have to be about politics and or trying to get public attention? Just perform your music and move on. That right there has just shut up and dribble vibes all over it. And you know, the conservative reaction to anybody who, expresses like, hey, maybe this league should be slightly less racist or terrible towards its players. Maybe we should stand up for things like Black Lives Matter. Shut up and dribble, as Laura Ingraham will put it. That is, of course, unless you're Kid Rock or Ted Nugent, then your political opinions are awesome, and we're going to, blast them essentially everywhere. Hey, everybody, look at Kid Rock. He made an opinion, and it's an opinion that we like. But anybody else, shut up and dribble. Just play my music. Music man. All right, another one. Came on Twitter this morning with 1,000 Democrats. I really doubt it. Telling me that I'm upset because the Super Bowl halftime show was rap/hip hop and Eminem kneeled while the anthem was not playing. Democrats working really hard to keep the racism alive. Hashtag racism not welcome. Hashtag halftime show. Now, you really wouldn't be all that upset unless your side happens to be the one that is the most racist. I mean, I'm not upset at all by this. But it's just I'm upset the Democrats are calling me racist for some reason. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to call them racist. Okay. All right. Sure. So now look, this is funny. The responses here are gold. But let me go to the reports here that I think are better. That apparently the NFL had denied his request to kneel. So now here's the thing. And also denied Dr. Dre saying that he's still not a fan of police. Hey, did you know that Dr. Dre still doesn't like police? Big shocker, right? Big shocker. But no, like, it's Eminem. You think he's going to listen to you? His entire musical career is, hey, people don't like me. People in Washington especially don't like me. They're trying to censor me in my music. And guess what? They did absolutely try to censor Eminem in his music. And you know who was at the forefront of that? Conservatives. The Republican conservative establishment, along with corporate neoliberals. Those are the ones that were trying to censor rap music for so long. And now, and here's the thing, conservatives now believe that they're some sort of hip, cool counterculture. No, conservatives are the establishment. They've been the establishment for a long time. They're not suddenly the cool counterculture, right? And they're like, oh yeah, you know, we're the ones fighting against the establishment. No, you're not. There's nothing more establishment than being conservative. Because what are you trying to conserve? You're trying to conserve the establishment. That's ridiculous. Ridiculous. And for me, of course, I don't care if you're anti-establishment. I'm anti-establishment right now too. But I think what matters to me most is what you want to build after the establishment is torn down. And I want to build a better place instead of a worse place. But anyway, now the NFL denied that report and said, "Oh no, we knew that this was going to happen. It's totally fine." In fact, quote, this is league spokesman Brian McCarthy saying, "We watched all elements of the show during multiple rehearsals this week, and we're aware that Eminem was going to do that." I don't know if I buy that. I think it's more of a face-saving gesture because what the NFL has been in is in the shit ever since they blackballed Colin Kaepernick in 2016. And by the way, they've still haven't, allowed him back into the league, essentially. But so now they're going with it, and it's a big but. It's a very big but, actually. The NFL hasn't changed anything, really. Again, with a lot of these corporations that have come out, these so-called woke corporations, right? That's what the conservatives always go on about. They're not actually woke. What they're doing is that they're just virtue signaling. They're coming out and saying things like, "Oh no, we're in favor of Black lives, but we have made absolutely no policy changes at our companies whatsoever. And by the way, we're still giving to racist Republican politicians." Why? Because they give me tax cuts and deregulation. So of course we're going to support them. But openly we're going to say, "Oh no, we're in favor of Black lives. Black lives matter. Please, Black people, buy our stuff. And please, white people who support Black people, also buy our stuff." We're so forward-thinking. We're so progressive. Not really. And by the way, on the politicians, well, they haven't done a damn thing either. Nothing has changed since the George Floyd protests. No police reform. We've got nothing. Nothing. Because they never intended to change anything. And so, unfortunately, that's why gestures like these are still relevant to the conversation and still necessary. We still need to continue to fight for Black lives to make sure that at the end of the day, everyone knows that they matter, because there are still people out there that don't think they do. Okay. Let's go to sexual anarchy. Oh, is that not working? Weird. All right. Turning Point USA founder Charlie Kirk is clutching his pearls once again. Now, this is about the NFL halftime show, and he claims that this is an example of sexual anarchy. So let me give you some details here. So now this halftime show had some famous old school rappers on, all right? Literally feels like I'm like 18 again. Because you have Eminem, 50 Cent, Snoop Dogg, Dr. Dre, and others. Now, of course, the preponderance of figures from rap, there were already enough to trigger conservatives into a frothy rage, but immediately following Mary J. Blige's A Family Affair and No More Drama, which featured some scantily clad backup singers, well, that's where they lost the 28-year-old Charlie Kirk, and he tweeted this. The NFL is now the League of Sexual Anarchy. This halftime show should not be allowed on television. Is that cancel culture? That looks like cancel culture. I mean, it feels like it. Now, he's not saying that you shouldn't watch it. Oh, wow, we shouldn't watch it. You know, he's saying that nobody should be able to watch it. It shouldn't be on television. Another way to say that is he wants it canceled for quote-unquote sexual anarchy, which is, again, the most hilarious thing that you could imagine. Hey, everybody, sexual anarchy. And why is that bad? You realize anarchy is the absence or non-recognition of authority, right? Or put it another way, quite simply, sexual anarchy just means freedom. Sexual freedom. You know, to do what you want in the bedroom with whomever you choose to do so in the bedroom. Well, I don't want anybody telling me what to do in my own bedroom. I mean, again, consent, right? That's the only thing that matters here is consent, which is sexy. But see, that's not what Charlie Kirk wants. Charlie Kirk is literally saying, since I'm against sexual anarchy, I want to tell you what to do in your own bedroom. Sorry, Charlie, but stay the fuck out of my bedroom. I don't give a damn what you do. I don't care. As long as you whatever you do is consensual, I don't give a damn. I don't want to control your life. So get the fuck out of my bedroom. Stay out of ours. You weirdo. Creepy weirdo. But again, he can't help himself because this is a theme with Charlie Kirk. This is a theme. In fact, here he is. I have video of him talking about this before.
They want to see America completely obliterated, the Constitution shredded, and remade in their own San Francisco, Brooklyn, Malibu, Manhattan image, where there is no cultural identity, where you live in sexual anarchy.
That sounds great. Sexual anarchy, freedom. I love freedom. I thought you're supposed to love freedom too. No. You know what amazes me? This guy's 28. This guy's younger than I am by like 10 years. He is proof that boomer is not an age. Boomer is a mindset. And so, look, I know I got a lot of older, folks watching this. Y'all know who you are. You're super progressive, and you know I love you. But see, this is why when I say boomer, I don't mean you. Because it's a mindset now. You don't have a boomer mindset like many of your similarly aged peers who are addicted to watching Fox News. And so now, boomer, again, he's 28 years old. He's got the boomer mindset. He is the youngest and least hip person I've ever seen, I've ever met, talking about, sexual anarchy. Yeah, I don't want that. The guy sounds like Dennis Prager, which of course is bad enough as it is. And look, here's the other thing about Charlie Kirk. I know a lot of people are like, Charlie Kirk's a grifter. Well, I think he's not smart enough to be grifting. I think he actually does buy into this. I think he actually does believe in some of the stuff that he says. And he's got that, again, boomer mindset, which of course is influenced by the money. But he believes it, or at least has convinced himself to believe that, yes, freedom or sexual anarchy, well, that's the real problem in America, and that's the real problem with the halftime show. Imagine if he had seen the Janet Jackson thing. His head would have exploded. Would have been fun to see, at least. All right, anyway. Let's move on to Black Lives Matter. Jeff, you have to see some conservatives in German parliament. They look like they're 14 and talk like 85. Yeah, that's weirdo stuff. Super weirdo stuff. All right. Conservatives continue to bend over backwards to defend the Canadian Freedom Trucker protest, which last week had terrorized small businesses in Ottawa and shut down a trade route, the Ambassador Bridge, between Canada and Detroit. Now, Fox News personalities, of course, they want you to ignore the white nationalist symbols, the anti-Semitic hate speech by the organizer of the convoy, that video is going around, as well as the harassment of immigrants and even people who choose to wear masks during the pandemic. There were lots of reports of people who were not affiliated to the protest just walking to work down the street wearing a mask, and they would yell at them and sometimes even threaten to rip their masks off. Now, here's the thing. In so doing, they ripped their own mask off. And now they want you to focus on Black Lives Matter. And so here's Laura Trump. She's going to do a comparison here. And, well, there's a lot to unpack. So let's take a look.
You know, it seems like you look at these people, they don't look to be that big of a threat. And, you know, we've both Joey and Leo, you both talked about the fact that the reaction was so different here in America in the summer of 2020. When Aisha, you've talked multiple times about how frightened you were yourself going out to cover those riots in New York City. Obviously, there were people all over our country who felt threatened because cities were literally being burned to the ground. And the interest now being taken by the liberal media and by our own government seems rather interesting, considering it's not even happening in our country, and clearly these people don't seem to be that big of a threat.
Now, do you notice that? I mean, a lot of stuff going on in that video, okay? Now, according to her, sitters being burnt to the ground. These people, though, well, they're not a threat. They're not a threat. Now, I love the notion here that somehow the message from Fox News is two different things. I can't be the only person who've noticed this. Now, Laura's message is, well, these people are small, they're not a big threat. I don't know why our government and the media are focusing so much on this tiny, tiny little protest. But the other message, also from Fox News, is, well, images, headlines like this. Canadian Freedom Convoy truckers, his movement is worldwide, does not think it can be stopped. All right, again, Fox News article. We got another one. Let me pull that up. Canadian Freedom Truckers massive vaccine mandate protest convoy may smash world record. So look, that's an example. There's plenty more of how, you know, they hyped it up as being, oh, this gigantic, huge thing, 50,000 trucks, which there were nowhere near 50,000 trucks. I think at most, at peak, it was about 18,000 protesters and a few hundred trucks. And so this is what we call Schrodinger's protest. Simultaneously, the biggest thing that could ever happen, and it should happen here, because that's what they're pushing for, right? And also super tiny. Why is everybody paying attention to it? Why is the government paying attention? I don't understand. It's a tiny, very, very harmless protest. I think Fox News might need to get their story straight here. All right? Now, again, it's been credibly witnessed that the trucker rally is actually a minority of truckers. Not that many. About 85% of the truckers, 85 to 90%, are vaccinated. This is not a majority of them. And look, you have a smattering of white nationalists, conspiracy theorists, other right-wing figures that are involved in these protests. And so you look at it, you know, there's a lot of Confederate, Gadsden, and Nazi flags too. And a pretty decent size of, you know, gathering of white people. So, I mean, again, you don't like it, you don't agree with it. I mean, facts don't care about your feelings. That's who makes up the truckers. Now, you compare this then, to compare it with Black Lives Matter protesters, which numbered in the millions in multiple different countries against actual police brutality and oppression. Well, that's even more ridiculous than the claim that entire cities were burnt to the ground. They weren't. Which ones were burnt down? Which cities were burnt? What was it? Portland? Hey, turns out Portland's still there. Wholly intact. Atlanta's still there. Kenosha, still there. All these different places that were claimed, burnt to the ground. Burnt to the ground. Really? Well, they're still there. They still exist. Now, that's not to say that fires did not actually happen. In Atlanta, Wendy's was burnt to the ground after police killed Rayshard Brooks in the parking lot. That happened. In Washington, D.C., there were small fires that set with newspaper boxes. You had arrests for those crimes. About 15 people. Kenosha, you had $11 million in property damage. That, yes, buildings were damaged, destroyed. Now, they were unfortunately isolated to predominantly black neighborhoods. And you compare the damage to that to what happened on January 6th, in which that will cost upward to about $30 million. So now that's just the damage to the businesses. Now, as a result of the truckers, well, workers in Michigan are expected to lose about $51 million in wages due to shortages because, well, you have stuff that couldn't get through the border, that couldn't get over the bridge. And so you have people, real working people, that can't work anymore as a result of the shutdown. And so we already have a supply chain crisis. Now you're just making it worse for regular people, for workers, and for people that need the stuff. And so again, this is impacting regular working people who no longer can go to work and earn a living. How is this a pro-working class rally if you're actively hurting the working class? And it's what it's always been about. It's just, we don't want to get vaccinated because we don't care about everyone else's public health. Something, Satan, Dr. Fauci, fetal cells, or China, or something. And that's what's going on. That's what's going on here. Now, again, I support the right to protest. And I understand that protests, and I've said this, I'm consistent, it's supposed to be uncomfortable and inconvenient. This is true. And these protests have been uncomfortable and inconvenient. But they've also shut down hospitals, access to hospitals during a pandemic. They did harass regular people trying to go back and forth to work with masks, taking safety measures, and they've kept regular working people up for days at a time, honking their horns, and then bragged about it. That's not in favor of working people. And by the way, they're doing all this for something that their government doesn't even control. Again, these are U.S. border rules that say that you have to be vaccinated to come over the border. Justin Trudeau does not control that. It's the United States. But you're going to shut down Ottawa. You're going to strangle small businesses. You're going to hurt your fellow workers over this, over something that they can't even do anything about. No, it's ridiculous. And by the way, one of the big demands is from these truckers is end all mandates, all mandates, and then have Justin Trudeau step down. That's their big thing that they want to do. Yeah. So now, one more point here on the fact that this is not a popular Canadian grassroots outlet or uprising. Okay? Most Canadians, according to polling, support the COVID restrictions, the mandates. Now, they are, of course, as we all are, we're tired of the pandemic. Of course we are. Man, it's going on 3 years. It sucks. I hate it. We all hate it. But guess what? We're doing this to protect people who cannot get vaccinated, to protect people with compromised immune systems, to protect regular people, which apparently these truckers don't seem to give a shit about. But anyway, in their most recent survey conducted February 4th to the 9th, a polling firm called Innovative Research Group found just about 29% of Canadians supporting the idea of the protest. 53% disapproved. In a separate survey by something called Lager, released on February 8th, they found that 62% of Canadians opposed the message that the trucker convoy protests are conveying of no vaccine mandates and less public health measures. 65% of respondents agreed that the demonstrators represented, quote, a small minority of Canadians who are only thinking about themselves. And finally, the January edition of the COVID-19 Monitor found that about 3/4 of Canadians support vaccine passports for indoor dining and gatherings, and 70% would strongly or somewhat support a vaccine mandate for all eligible adults. Researchers behind COVID-19 Monitor also find that on most issues, support has remained relatively stable for these measures throughout the pandemic. And finally, you have an analysis of some of the donations to this rally. You're not going to be surprised. Who's funding this? Well, it turns out more Americans than Canadians are funding the Freedom Rally, the truckers. 63% of the donations to the truckers, now removed by GoFundMe, came from the United States. There was another fundraiser that just had its details leaked. And it turns out, once again, you had a majority of right-wingers in the United States giving the most donations. Now, in that same leak, of course, the majority of money did come from Canadians, but from less people in Canada than in the United States. So those are the details there. It's almost as if wealthier Canadians are putting up most of the money for the Canadian protests, whereas right-wingers in the United States are giving the rest. Interesting. Very interesting indeed. So this is a right-wing AstroTurf movement. This is not a populist movement. And at the end of the day, it actually more or less aligns with business interests. While they're blocking the roads and preventing stuff from getting through and preventing people from going to work, you have CEOs that are raising prices. And what are they doing? They're blaming supply chain issues, which again, all these corporations are richer than they were before the pandemic started and are continuing to get richer and raising their prices. And they're also blaming vaccine mandates. Interesting. And by the way, the other thing that none of these truckers seem to be talking about is actual changes in the trucking industry. For example, wages. For example, benefits, working conditions. How truckers end up having to get roped into massive debt by leasing or having to buy their own trucks. No conversations about that whatsoever. All the conversation is within this rally is just all about how to continue the nonsense culture war and own the libs. That's always what it's about. All right. Business doesn't need much of an excuse to price gouge. Unfortunately, that's true. And they're, of course, going to use every avenue available. You know it. You know it. All right. This is a hilarious story. I love this. All right. A local Michigan anchor recently shared a disturbing email from a viewer in which this viewer, had criticized her for her choice of makeup. So now the anchor is Whitney Burney, and she works for the Grand Rapids NBC Wood TV 8 News. So now here's what she tweeted. The kinds of emails you get when you work in the news. He even had the nerve to leave his cell phone address and occupation in the email signature and said, if I'm the wrong person, please forward this message. Here's how I looked at the desk today. So now let me tell you what the email said actually first. This local physician thinks that this woman, let me show you, looks like a whore. Quote, if you are the anchor right now on Wood TV 8, this is for you. If not, and I can't tell for sure, please disregard and forward to whomever is the anchor. Your makeup makes you look like a whore. Do yourself a favor and clean up. Now wait a minute. Let me show you again. She looks lovely. I don't understand. She looks fine. What is wrong with this person? Apparently a lot. I don't know. But look, here's the thing. Wood TV 8's got several black female anchors, right? Could he not tell the difference? Could he not tell the difference between the two, the different women there? I don't know. But the best part is that she already noted that he had signed the email and included his address and phone number. How dumb are you? Like, how stupid of a man is this? Like, I'm gonna send this email. I'm gonna type this up, telling this person. And by the way, the grammar was good at least. But like, no, I'm gonna sign this thing and say that, hey, you look like a whore. Clean yourself up. Why don't you go clean yourself up? Or what made you think when you were typing that out, nailed it? That is totally a good thing that I'm about to send. No, don't hit send. Don't hit send. Delete. Look, and you know who's generally always seems to send these kinds of emails and letters? And again, I talk to a lot of women, of course, friends of mine. The people who are always saying the most outrageous things are, I don't know, old white men. Apparently, Black News Lady made him have an uncomfortable feeling in his pants, and so now he's got to take it out on her. How dare you look sexy? Look less sexy. But not that much less sexy. There's got to be like a middle ground where I don't get in trouble. You see, I don't know what it is, but wow. And of course, he's getting roasted on Twitter as a result of this, because she shared not his information, but she did share the email and his name to put him on blast. One person responded with this, saying, "Dear woman I have never met, I am aroused by the sight of you, and I have been taught to feel ashamed of myself. Therefore, you must amend your appearance in order to prevent me from feeling ashamed, but not too much, or right to complain about that too." Why are men? Good question. Good question. Another person says, how to say you don't like seeing black women on TV without saying you don't like to see black women on TV. Now, there's also a pretty great review that I've seen. And by the way, he's getting bombed with reviews on the internet, which is always fun. As long as you have the right person, of course. But here's one of them. If this is the doctor that likes to email news anchors to tell them they look like whores, this is for you. If it's not, and I genuinely can't tell, please disregard and forward to the appropriate MD. But I think you just ruined your life. Genius. Genius. Genius indeed. Now, let me just say before I end the segment, it's important to note that this is not the first and only time female anchors have gotten targeted by weirdos. And they are weirdos. Last month, a viewer complained that a Korean American anchor for KSDK, Michelle Lee, was being too Asian. Too Asian. Really? She's Korean American. Of course she's Asian. But no, she's being too Asian on air. Oh, right. Okay. Look, I think at the end of the day, blackness or basically anything that's not your stereotypical Fox News anchor, which is white, blonde haired, is apparently makes them uncomfortable. I generally think that they do. They make these people feel very, very uncomfortable in many different ways. And it's so incredibly weird and just creepy and gross. Now, you ever notice mentioning the Fox News ladies? Overwhelmingly white and blonde, and that's on purpose. Because of the Fox News audience, well, that's the only women that they want to see. Sexy, but not too sexy as to get them in trouble. What the fuck is too Asian? No idea. I don't know. How's she supposed to be less Asian? You got me. The weirdo people saying weirdo things. All right. Well, let's go to a serious issue. Now that I have you all roped into some serious news after the lighter stories. I know that's a lighter story on this show. At least 18 inmates at Kern Valley State Prison in California have sued over a failure to fix water contamination at the facility. So now, according to inmates who suffered numerous health issues, and despite receiving multiple state and county level water quality violations, the prison itself, the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation had actually delayed their remediation and did not provide alternate sources of water, which forced thousands of inmates to consume arsenic-laced water for 6 or more years. So think about that. A little bit of arsenic in the water for 6 years. That's horrifying. I mean, they're drinking poison. And how did that happen for that long without nobody doing anything about it? Well, they said, well, we did try to do something about it. We eventually built a plant, to filter the water, the arsenic out of the water. But there were multiple failures along the way. So now, first, let me get to what arsenic does to the body. Now, according to the study, inorganic arsenic exposure can have a wide range of negative effects. It's been associated with an increased risk of cancer of the bladder, lungs, skin, kidneys, nasal passages, liver, and prostate. Additionally, long-term exposure to lower levels of arsenic results in skin lesions, rashes, warts, complications of the gastrointestinal tract, decreased production of red and white blood cells, abnormal heart rhythm, damage to blood vessels, and impaired nerve function. Combined with other things, it can lead, of course, to death. Now, the EPA's Safe Water Drinking Information System showed that from the years 2008 to 2012, KVSP's water had arsenic levels that consistently tested around 20 micrograms per liter, which is actually twice the EPA limit. Again, how did this happen? Nobody cared. Nobody cared. So now, the result of this is that you had prisoners, of course, that regularly would break out with skin lesions. Another one cited in the article lost about 50 pounds within 90 days. And of course, when he was examined, they discovered that he had tumors on his kidneys. Another prisoner suffered retch, nausea, stomach cramps, pain, and headaches. He described KVSP's water as sometimes coming out of the tap brown and at other times having a white powdery substance in it. Consistently, though, he said, quote, "It tasted weird, like it had a salt or a chemical residue in it," which it absolutely did. So now, of course, the obvious question is, wait, why didn't somebody do something about it? Why didn't they know this was going on? Well, they knew. They absolutely knew. And they actually refused to do anything about it. In fact, as required by the California Department of Public Health, CDCR staff had begun posting flyers around the prison back in 2008 in order to alert incarcerated people at KVSP that their water contained arsenic levels above the maximum limit. So we're just going to post signs everywhere saying, hey guys, the water's poison. Make sure not to drink it. Okay, but are you going to give us alternate sources of water? No, of course not. What are you talking about? No, we're just telling you not to drink it and then saying, well, you really don't have a choice. Now, the flyers indicated that consuming water with such elevated arsenic can cause skin damage or circulatory system problems that may lead to an increased risk of cancer. Each quarter, the flyers were updated and reposted. And everybody knew about it, and everybody knew even before the prison was activated. Even prior to the activation of Kern Valley State Prison in 2005, it was identified by the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation the water supplied by wells at KVSP would need additional treatment in order to meet the new federal and state drinking water quality standards related to arsenic levels. They didn't do so. Instead, they activated the prison, shoved people in there, and then said, well, we'll eventually get to it. Now, the government had given the CDCR $2.5 million back in 2006 in order to build the plant. But construction did not begin as promised. Instead of transferring its population until it had a functional water treatment system, the CDCR continued to hold between 3,000 and 5,000 prisoners at KVSP, well above the design capacity of 2,448 since its opening in 2005. There's 2,448 people. So that, I mean, not only was it packed, jam-packed, full of people, but also had poisoned water. Now, in the subsequent years, the department did build an arsenic removal water system project designed to meet the current and future needs of the prison. However, it only began construction in 2010 after numerous delays and was finally operational in March of 2012. They knew this was a problem since 2005, and they even were allocated money from the California government in order to build this. And yet, it didn't get built for another 7 years, while prisoners were knowingly drinking, because they kept posting it, poison water. That's disgusting. Disgusting. Now, it's not over yet. It still gets worse. Even after it was built in 2012, the prison continued to receive violations and compliance orders from the State Water Resources Control Board concerning the treatment facilities. Tricia Wathan, chief of the Central California section of the State Water Resources Control Board, oversaw most of the violations and compliance orders sent to KVSP. She had also signed the 2013 citation for failing to collect water samples and to submit them for arsenic testing, which she said is an extremely rare type of violation. And from May to July of 2013, when the arsenic water system was supposed to be in operation, there were no water samples to figure out if it was actually working that were collected nor sent to laboratories. Why? Because again, they didn't care. Human cruelty as always. Well, it's just prisoners. Who cares if they drink the poison? And if you think that's hyperbole, no. One prisoner interview his name was John Williams, told Truth Out in this report, quote, prison staff didn't care because they didn't have to drink it. They didn't have to drink it at all. In fact, all 4 incarcerated people interviewed said that KVSP correctional officers and staff exclusively drank bottled water. I mean, of course that's not a surprise. They knew the water was poisoned. They got the bottled water. The prisoners didn't get no bottled water. In fact, whenever they did request it, this is according to another prisoner, Anton Slaughter, who had filed a number of grievances at the prison as a result of this, said that prisoners who requested bottled water were rejected and would receive a form letter that denied their request, signed by the warden. Drinking it, he said, tasted horrible. All the prisoners felt the same way. We would only take baby sips of the water. We wouldn't drink a lot of water. And of course, why would you, right? Now, that said, you have to drink water, literally. If you don't drink water, then that has its own health risks of becoming dehydrated. But what are you going to do? You have no choice, right? You know it's poison, but you don't have any alternative sources because whenever you ask for, hey, can we have bottled water? They'll laugh in your face and say, no, you can't have that. Go and drink your poison water, criminal, inmate. And by the way, they also slow-walked the development of the plant for what I can consider to be no reason at all. In fact, you had Eli McFarland, water resource control engineer for the State Water Resources Control Board, who explained that there was no approved operations plan for that plant to be built. They just didn't care to create a plan. He said, quote, ideally a water system will receive a permit to operate only after it develops a detailed operations plan. McFarland explained that KVSP was likely allowed to open the arsenic treatment plant without adhering to the standard process because of the immediate need faced by a dependent population with no alternate water source, as is sometimes the case with schools or nursing homes. However, the decision to proceed without an operations plant meant that the CDCR was let off the hook yet again without a process for ensuring clean drinking water for its aforementioned vulnerable population. So they didn't do anything by the book. Multiple failures, multiple violations, and of course, nobody gives a goddamn because they're prisoners. They're just prisoners. Who cares? In fact, here's the statement from the prison. CDCR Information Officer Joe Orlando told Truth Out, quote, CDC had complied with all requirements placed upon it by both the federal EPA and the State Department of Public Health in the interim until the arsenic plant was completed and compliance with state and federal standards was achieved. KVSP tests and monitors the water regularly to ensure it's safe to use and consume. Hey, we followed the federal EPA standards was just to post up a sign that says, hey, you're drinking poison water. What? We followed that rule. We didn't give them alternative water sources like bottled water. No, of course. Why would we do that? That water's ours. We get the clean drinking water. They get signs telling them exactly what they're drinking. Disgusting, right? There's more. They also contradicted themselves when it came to the water quality violations that were discussed. Orlando of the CDCR said this, quote, since the beginning of operations, there have been no violations. It's because you didn't send anything in. You didn't even send any water samples to get tested after the plant was built. Oh, yeah, I mean, yes, we've had no violations. Well, gee, I wonder why. Yeah, of course you have no violations when you don't actually get the water tested. No, you're covering your ass. This is, again, super disgusting. It once again shows that they don't give a damn about their prisoners. To them, that they're no longer human beings, and they could die from poison for all we care. No, yes, I'm sorry. But here's the thing. I think that if you committed a crime, that doesn't mean you give up your basic human rights. You know, to clean water. We're supposed to rehabilitate people. That was the whole point of our criminal justice system. Supposed to be, we rehabilitate people to become functional members of society. And by the way, if you poison people, that's torture. That's inhumane, treatment. Our system, I understand that our system now, we know it's all about punishment. We all know that, of course, hey, if you commit a crime, we are going to throw you. And by the way, the majority of people that are stuck in our carceral system, you want to guess what color their skin is? Yeah. So, especially, in some of these bigger prisons, like in California, you have a majority African-American population in which they don't give a damn about and do not treat them like human beings. And the thought is, hey, you committed a crime, now you must drink literal poison. You earned it. No, I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that. That's not what a civilized society does, but I guess we're not a civilized society, are we? No. No, if anything, the guards that withheld drinkable water and the warden, they're the real criminals here. To let this go on for so long, knowing, absolutely knowing, and not caring that they are literally killing people or setting them up for health. By the way, setting them up for health problems when they eventually get out of prison. Maddening and disgusting. That's our prison system for you. All right. All right. So that's all the stories that I have prepared for you today. Let me just go here and thank some members and super chats here. To get that pulled up. Let's see. Gabby Mathis here with the super chat. We're all drinking PFAS water here in the USA. That's true. Absolutely true. Unfortunate too. Oh, hold on. I was cut off. What prison is it? It is the Kern Valley State Prison in California. So, just horrifying. Absolutely horrifying. Let's see. Kentucky Progressive Dragon over on Twitch, resub with Prime. Thank you for the 6 months. Really, really appreciate it. And they said, they didn't seem too upset about all the blonde cheerleaders either at the Super Bowl, but somehow dancing equates to sexual anarchy. As the Super Bowl, we're approaching Footloose material now. Yeah.
Sexual anarchy.
Oh, man. Terrible. Let's see. Thank you for the new follows as well. And Kathleen, thank you for resubbing for month to tier 1. So now, look, if you want to help the show, of course, there's ways that you can do it. You can sub on Twitch. You can send a super chat. You can become a member. In fact, there was a new member here that just signed up today. Let me see if I can find that. I believe that is, I don't know if I can read that. I think that's BK. Thank you for becoming a basic supporter here on our YouTube. Other way you can support, of course, is Patreon. It's patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf. You can help us out by joining there as well. Oof. All right. Figure out who to raid. Let's do let's do a surf raid. It should be fun. He'll be talking about the Canadian truckers as well. Being that he is Canadian, he may have some more insight that I do not. Even though Canada is technically my hat, because I live in Michigan. So, all right. Anyway, thank you all. Please like and share the stream if you haven't already. Like and share the clips. Have a wonderful Valentine's Day. Hopefully, we will see you all tomorrow here around the nation. Love you all. And remember, change begins with you. Good night. We'll see you all tomorrow.
Sexual anarchy.
Obama.
Disappointed!
Please clap.
You're kicking me out the door. You're kicking me out the door.